Show presented by FM Digital Media here on this weekly college basketball chat with the General. We jump right into it as it is tourney time, getting towards postseason. Sunday will be Selection Sunday for the NCAA brackets, and we are joined by Will Wade here on the Will Wade Show. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. All right, Selection Sunday coming up this weekend. Conference tournaments begin. And we have seen some teams make a jump as the top 25 was announced yesterday, Coach, going into the postseason. Houston sits atop there. UCLA made a huge jump. Kansas at 3 and Bama at 4 is the top 4 spots as we go into it. Tell me about SEC weekend tournament or SEC tournament week, how that changes anything you do or what type of emphasis you put on preparation.
Well, I think, the conference tournaments are hard because – some teams are more motivated than others. I mean, there's some years, I've gone to conference tournaments, I've wanted to lose early so we could go home and rest if we didn't have a bunch of guys. Or some years I knew we needed to get a better seed, and so you were really locked in. So the tournaments are a crapshoot. One year when I was at VCU, we played in the championship, and the championships on Sunday, the conference tournament. Both years I was the head coach there, we played in the conference championship. I think every year as an assistant there, we played in the conference championship. It was wild, but we played in the conference championship in New York. We got beat, but then you have to stay around and watch the selection show. Then you fly back, and when you fly back, we didn't get back to Richmond till like 10 that night. And then we got sent on a Thursday noon tip-off or Thursday midday tip-off in Salt Lake City, Utah. So we turned around and left again on Tuesday. I mean, it's just it can be a really tough turnaround the longer you go in those tournaments, especially like with the SEC where the championship's on Sunday. And obviously TV pays the bills, so you got to do it when TV wants you to do it. And the ACC has theirs on Saturday, so those guys get a little bit more rest. So sometimes it just boils down to motivation. And if you're a team that doesn't have a lot of depth and you can just get 1 or 2 wins, solidify your seeding. Like if I were Tennessee, I would just, they're banged up. They need to win the first game against the winner of the 12-3 game. And then if they lose that 4 game to Missouri, that's great. But if they win it, that's fine too. And then just get beat by Alabama and go home on Saturday. Like there's, you don't want to elongate your stay if you're banged up or you're not playing a bunch of you're just not playing a bunch of guys. Like we were very fortunate the year we went to the SEC title game and we missed the tip-in against Bama. We didn't play till that. We didn't play till that. We had a game. Our game was not on Thursday. I was worried sick we were going to have to play on Thursday after playing in that game. We ended up not playing until Friday, I believe, up in Indianapolis at Indiana. So. There's a lot of factors with it. A lot of the conference tournaments, how motivated the teams are. I mean, obviously in a 1-bid league, everybody's motivated, but in the multi-bid leagues, who's motivated, who really wants to be there, who really wants to play, and who's just trying to get in and out and keep it moving. And so most coaches wouldn't admit to some of that, but there's certainly some of that. Now, as you prepare, always prepared with some shooting, work on our late game situations, just some things like that. I try to scrimmage a lot going into it. A lot of times, we were a pretty good seed most years, so we didn't know exactly who we were going to play. So you were kind of looking at things maybe that would work against both teams you could potentially play, or one of 3 teams you could potentially play. And so we were, we would try to work on ourselves more, especially our shooting and our late game situations, and spend a bunch of time on that just to make sure we had all that, had all that shored up and had all that ready for tournament time.
The SEC and the Big 12 have stood out this year. They'll have 5 ranked teams right now in the top 25. Big 12's got 3 inside the top 10. Big East got 4 ranked teams as well. What have you made of the SEC here now that we've had a chance to fill or see the full sample size of it, and how you expect them to contend in March?
Well, I mean, Alabama and Kentucky are the 2 best built right now. I mean, Tennessee without Ziegler, they were upset prone with him. They're extremely upset prone because of just how poor their offense is. And their offense wasn't very good with him either. And so, I think Alabama's really built to win the whole thing or make a Final Four, and I think Kentucky's built to they've kind of figured things out. They've shortened the rotation. They need to get Wallace back. He's been playing well. Oscar's back to playing better. They've kind of figured out the ball screen coverages with Oscar and what to do there. So Reeves is obviously shooting the cover off the ball. I think those are the two teams. Tennessee potentially, could make a run maybe to the second weekend. But the problem is, Missouri, Arkansas, Auburn, Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State's going to get it. Mississippi State's probably going to be an 11. They may have a better chance to advance than those other three. Those other three I mentioned are probably going to be on the 8-9 line or maybe the 7-10 line. And you'd much rather be on that 7-10 than that 8-9. It's really tough to advance out of that 8-9 to the second weekend. And so, I think part of it, those teams are capable. I think Missouri's style of play, if they could get a decent seed, if they get to like a 6, and I don't know whether they can or not, I doubt it, but that style of play on a short turnaround, on a Thursday, Saturday, or a Friday, Sunday is really, really difficult to prepare for, and you can't simulate it. And so I think they could be a really, really tough out for somebody. Arkansas is the same way. I mean, Arkansas has had really, really good success in the tournament. If they can get the right draw, the right matchups, they could certainly be a pain for some teams as well. But really it comes down to the draw and the seedings, and I think those teams are just going to get just really tough seeds. That 8-9 line is really tough. We were on it the year we had a really good team. We beat Bonaventure, and then we lost a close game to Michigan. It's a tough line to be on. It's a tough line to hold, and makes it tough to get to that second weekend for sure. But I would say now Alabama's a Final Four team, and I think Kentucky's a second weekend team, and we'll see where they go. And Tennessee's a bubble second weekend team. Tennessee is really dependent on on matchups. They can't play an offensive juggernaut. Like if they saw somebody like Iowa, it'd be tough for them.
It felt like Texas A&M's guard Wade Taylor was one of the best players.
I forgot about A&M. I shouldn't have, but I mean they're going to be a 5-6 seed. I think they'll win their first round game. I'm not sure they make the Sweet 16. I hope they do. Yeah. Buzz has done a great job. They've got great players, but they're kind of. I mean, I worry about teams that are so free throw reliant, and they're very, very free throw reliant. And, they just blast people at the free throw line. Alabama does too. Alabama gets a ton of ink for all their threes and all that stuff. Where they really kill you is at the free throw line. They just hammer you at the free throw line. And A&M's taken that to a whole nother level. And the officials will never admit this, but in that NCAA tournament, man, they let you play. Yeah. Like, it's physical. They're not going to call. They don't really want to foul guys out. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's capitalism. All right, everybody tunes in to watch the best teams and the best players, and to hope for a couple upsets. They don't want the best players sitting on the bench, and everybody knows that, whether it's subconsciously, whatever it may be. I mean, they know that, and so it's a tough way to survive when A&M's offense is just such a drag sometimes, and it's a lot of But Wade Taylor's playing great, and and Dennis when he hits shots, and Radford's playing well, and the two bigs are good. But I just worry about them because they're so reliant on those free throws, and they may only get 60% of their normal free throws that they get in SEC play in an NCAA tournament. Well, how do they? That's probably 6 points a game, 4 to 6 points a game. Well, how are they going to make up those 4 to 6 points in an NCAA tournament game against somebody pretty evenly matched? Yeah. But I do think they could make the second weekend. I have some concerns with that on the free throws.
They did what you said they were going to do right under Buzz. They play better towards the end of the year, and by this time of the season, they're usually clicking.
Yeah, they're playing well. I mean, they played great against Alabama. They're playing really, really well. They're a team. They had a great run in the SEC tournament last year. I think my hunch is they would be motivated in the SEC tournament. You've seen Alabama a couple times this year. Like, how motivated have they been? You know what I'm saying? I mean, they went to home, got blasted. Like, they'll be locked in for that NCAA tournament. Don't get me wrong. They'll be locked in for that thing. But SEC tournament. They won the SEC going away. Not going away, but they won it by a game or two. There was little doubt who the best team was. They have the player of the year, the freshman of the year. I mean, how excited are they going to be there? My hunch is A&M's going to be excited to be there. I think they'll be fired up to be there. I think Missouri will be fired up to be there. I think Kentucky maybe. I mean, Kentucky could be supremely motivated just because of they've kind of taken some water on this year. They've turned it around, and so a lot of it's going to be that motivation and just kind of give a shit factor. Like who's excited to be there, who wants to be there, and But I think A&M certainly fits in that category.
Coach, Oscar Tshiebwe, as you mentioned, and Wade Taylor were both a part of the SEC All Conference team, first team. Also,
how about they put 8 people on the first team?
I was about to say,
we make some decisions. You play 5 at a time. Nobody wants to make any tough decisions, so we just put 8 on a team. It's crazy. But anyway, sorry.
I agree with you. I mean, I was going to ask you about the voting process and how you felt about it. But Missouri's Kobe Brown in Missouri. He's a player.
There's a lot of politics involved in all that voting. I would vote for the people who I thought were the best. And I would get Kent to print me out the stats. I'd have Kent fill out a ballot. I'd fill out a ballot. I'd kind of combine them and see where he was and see where I was because he was a neutral observer. I tried to take all the emotion out of it, who I liked, who I didn't like, because at the end of the day, it's about the players, and the players deserve what they earned, and so you should be able to you should be able to take the emotion out of it and vote. And a lot of coaches don't do that; they vote with emotion, and that's why you see some quirky things on some of these teams.
Mm-hmm. Coach, I wanted to ask you about the Alabama team over the last 3 weeks, over the last month. And by no means am I asking in, your thoughts of what's going on off the court or comparing anything, but you have coached teams that have been under the spotlight, under adversity, and where people have really kind of pointed at you and the team and really tried to follow everything that goes on with the program. What does that do to the added stresses of what goes on during this part of the calendar for a college basketball program?
Well, I mean, we were used to it.
Yeah.
So,
But even when it first started, right? Like when it first started, it took a little adjusting,
when it first started, I mean, it's tough, but you really just try to rally your group and rally your guys. It can be really good internally. As bad as things may seem externally, it really kind of hunkers everybody down and gives everybody some purpose internally if you've got the right stuff, and I think Alabama does. I'm a little worried Alabama hasn't played as well these last couple weeks. They've.
I was going to ask you, is that kind of been a little bit of some wake of that?
I don't know if it's been that. Like it looks to me. I mean, I'll talk about the elephant in the room. It looks to me like this Brandon Miller stuff's affected the rest of the kids a lot more than it's affected him.
Uh-huh.
Like they look a little more shaky, and I mean, you can't listen. This is what I always told our guys. We can't worry about what the outside world thinks of us. We know who we are internally. We're very comfortable with who we are internally. We know what we stand for. We know what we're about. Who cares what the rest of them think? Mm-hmm. If we spend all our time worrying about them, we're going to be paralyzed. Like, let's worry about ourselves. And I tell them all the time, don't ever ask advice. Don't ever listen to criticism from somebody you wouldn't ask advice from. So none of these people that are criticizing you, would you go ask them for some advice in a life situation? So quit worrying about it and just move on. Yeah. And let's worry about ourselves. And the best thing we can do is play well and stay in the negative headlines, so to speak. Be the hated team. But you have to embrace that. And I don't know whether I don't know if that's the track Alabama's taken. That was kind of my track. Like, hey, embrace it. Us against the world. Let's roll. Let's roll. And so, it can be galvanizing for your group, galvanizing for your team. And, there's plenty of fuel to add to the fire for most folks. But, Alabama stepped back a little bit in how they've played. Their defense has slipped a little bit. The shooting's going to come and go. But like I said, the free throw line and getting to the rim is helped. But I think they'll pick it back up. I think they'll crank it back up. It's not like they've slipped. It's not like they've slipped a ton, but when you're in a position where they are and you're fighting for a national title and you slip 3 to 5%, that's huge. Yeah, that's the difference in winning and losing, especially in a competitive tournament setting. So I think they've got some work to do, to just make sure they're playing well. I think that would be my goal, if I was Alabama, that Mississippi State's giving them problems. Mississippi State's the type team that turned that thing into a tractor pull. Mississippi State beats Florida in that 8-9 game. And Mississippi State should, because Florida's down Castleton. But Mississippi State played them really close at Alabama and played them close in Starkville, and Alabama pulled away at the end, and it was a double-digit win. But it was really, really close. Like, they're the type team that could just, get Alabama into a really, really slow game. But then again, they're the type team that if Alabama bangs 4 or 5 threes, they can't come back either. So it's really going to be who can get off to a great start, who can make things happen. And so, we'll see how that plays out. But Alabama, I do think, needs to have one really good game in Nashville where they kind of get their sea legs and feel good about themselves.
You have mentioned this before, but I wonder if you can go a little bit deeper on this. Does seeding ultimately matter of what happens this week?
The seeding doesn't matter. The matchups are what matter. It's who you play. Uh-huh. And some teams are just better matchups for other teams, and so it's really about who you play. Now, typically, the better seed you can get, the better your matchups will be. But that doesn't always ring true. And so, really, it's about how the bracket falls and who you're playing and who the matchups are as much as the seeding.
Last one for you. I'll get you out of here. The Antoine Davis story of the scoring leader. Obviously, LSU's got a piece of it here with Pistol Pete being the reigning scoring leader. He fell 3 shy last week in the Horizon League tournament, and there's talk of him going into the CIB for maybe a paid entry and maybe getting to do this. What do you think of that record? How cool was it to coach at Pete's school? And what do you think of Antoine Davis still possibly chasing this thing?
I mean, it's first off, it's an incredible record. I'm not going to go through the 5 years, first 3, the JV, all that sort of stuff. It's an incredible record. Antoine Davis is a phenomenal player. I saw him play in AAU with Houston Hoops. He played with Javante some in AAU, and so I've seen him play a ton. And what he's done is incredible. Now, I don't believe they should be able to buy their way into the CBI and then just to break the record. I don't think. I mean, look, they had plenty of chances in the regular season. He's played a ton of games. He missed a 3 at the buzzer to come up 3 short. Like, you made a run at it, but it is what it is. I don't think, if they had a winning record and, I'd maybe feel a little bit differently about it. But I just don't think that's something that, I don't think that we should get into that for breaking the record. He had opportunities, and he is a hell of a player and did it at multiple schools and just did a phenomenal job. But I don't think it's something that we should be paying our way into the CBI for. And it's as far as I'm concerned, it's Pete's record based on the play on the court. And in today's day and age of basketball, Davis was obviously the best chance to break it, but I don't think it'll ever be broken.
Yeah. Was there any nostalgia to Pete Maravich and coaching at that school?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Jackie, some. I mean, they live on the North Shore. She lives on the North Shore. Great people, great, just great family, very, very supportive, followed the program, followed LSU. And I mean, look, you walked in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. You walked in there every day. And, there's a lot of politics on that statue. I was having to work behind the scenes on the statue with some people to make sure that thing happened. I was happy to see that go up. That was important, and I thought needed to happen, along with the Simone Augustus. But, I think he's an icon and phenomenal player and a phenomenal, person to be a part of your program.
Politics in LSU. I don't believe you. All right, 2 from listeners here. We got one from Brandon, right outside of Louisiana, on the line here in Mississippi. Asks, Coach, who's the hardest player that you recruited that you missed on?
Oh, that's a good question. The one that we recruited the hardest that we missed on?
Yeah, the one that you were going after, the one that you really wanted and came up.
I would say Nafali Dante.
Okay.
He was at Oregon. He's still at Oregon. He tore his ACL. He was a big kid. We put a lot. We really wanted him. We put a lot into him. He was at Sunrise Christian, but I'd say Nafali Dante. He's a big kid, big 7-footer. He'd have been a good player. I'd say him, and then Mike Miles, the kid at TCU. I loved him. He's at Lancaster High School. Came down to us at TCU, and he wanted to be close to home and stay close to home. And I just loved him. He's everything we were about. His mentality. His mother's one of the best people you'll ever meet. Just really, really good folks. Miles was. Look, you never know how good somebody's going to be. I mean, he was like a 3-star. He was top 100, maybe top one, somewhere between 100 and 150. I think he may have moved up at the end. Wade Taylor was actually his high school teammate. Wade Taylor was a sophomore on his high school team. He committed to A&M really early. He was a sophomore on the high school team at Lancaster. But I had a feeling, man, that Mike Miles was going to be really good. I got the same feeling. There's a kid that I think we recruited hard. He just reopened his commitment from Ole Miss. Josh Hubbard from Mississippi. He's ranked in kind of the same way Miles is. He's going to be a hell of a college player. We'd have died to get him. We'd had him on 3 unofficial visits, an official visit. I'd been to Jackson 4 or 5 times. I think we were in good shape for him, obviously, but things fell apart. But Miles and Dante those were tough. But when you feel like you've evaluated somebody well. See, Miles played on the Texas Titans, the AAU program. They had Cade Cunningham on the team. They had all these guys. And so he played you had to go watch him in high school to really know how good he was. And he had quick twitch. He's a pit bull, man. He is freaking love him. And anyway, those were, as you could tell, those were tough. Those were tough. Maybe the funniest recruiting story ever was out when we were recruiting Miles, and you know me, I like to eat. So there's this really good barbecue restaurant right down the street from Lancaster High School. So we would go there every time and eat every time we were there. And Coach Armstrong hated it because he was like, wow, we got to go to this junk, blah, 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 blah. So the last time we went in for the visit, we visited with them at the school or whatever. It's an off day for the school or something. We went in and they had practice. We went in there and I can't remember exactly how it all went. But so we go to the barbecue restaurant. Well, we sit down and you order and then you sit down and eat. And then there's 2 LSU fans sitting in there, so they recognize us and come up and talk to us. And then this lady comes in and she's trying to order baked potatoes for some, this is the craziest shit. So she's trying to order baked potatoes for for some ministry or some nonprofit, something. They were supposed to be donated and so the wires got crossed and she was getting 50. I can't remember the specific, but anyway, she was just annoying as hell. And so she was going up and all this and she was coming around to the tables and so finally Bill got so sick of it. He was mad we were there to begin with. Bill just walks up and pays for all the potatoes. He's like, Coach, give me your card. I'm going to pay for this. Just get this woman out. So then we thought that would get her. Then she comes over and starts praying with us and thanking us and all this. So we couldn't get rid of her. We were there for an extra 30 minutes because we couldn't get her to shut up. We thought just paying for the damn baked potatoes, she would be done. She'd be done with us. We'd be done with it. Wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. And then some of the craziest shit, man. We go to that stuff, and she just wouldn't shut up, man. And then she came over and we made the mistake of engaging her.
Letting her in.
No, we're doing something nice. We were doing something nice. I hope, shit, she may have ate the potatoes for a month or something. I don't know. I hope she donated like she said she was. I didn't really, we don't know. But then she came up and started praying with us and sat down at the table and talked to us and wanted to know the background. We were just oh my gosh. So anyway, that was Mike Miles. But we missed on him. That was a big miss, and Nefali Dante too. I'm sorry, I went way off.
No, that's good. Andrew in New Orleans, loyal Will Wade podcast listener. Two of my biggest takeaways is Coach's knowledge of the game and how much he travels to watch basketball throughout the year. Coach, how do you choose your travel schedule and what games you're going to watch, and what's the purpose? Are you just networking?
Well, a little bit of both. I've been doing some work for the NBA on some stuff, so part of it's kind of dictated by that, and then part of it's kind of dictated, quite honest, by what the hell I want to do, and who I want to see, and who I'm friendly with, and who I like, and that sort of thing. And so, part of it's dictated by that, and friends, and where I want to go. So, but I enjoy getting out. I enjoy getting around. I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot of different stuff this year. I've had to do some stuff. I always say, I want to do this. I want to do that. When you get caught in the season, you can't do it. And so it was funny. I was actually out in LA this year. I had a business meeting out there on something else, and then I went to UCLA, USC on a Thursday night. I went to the Lakers and Hawks on a Friday. Shoot, Jordy, I ran into somebody who knew you there.
Really?
Some radio personality from Georgia, nice guy. He's from Louisiana. He was sitting right behind me at the Lakers game. So anyway, then I realized I'm like, well, damn, I'm out here. I forgot the national championships Monday. I'm like, maybe I'll just stay around here for that. I didn't end up doing it because I couldn't get the flights and everything worked out. But it was like, damn, maybe I'll just stay. I was like, I don't have anything to do. Like most times you're out there, you got boom, 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 you're out.
Yeah.
And it was like shit, I don't have anything to do. Maybe I'll stay out here and watch this. I'm glad I didn't. It was such a beatdown. But I left it. It was like, just kind of have a little bit of freedom and go do what you want to do and enjoy what you do.
Just because I know you, and this is really the last one because I know you got to go. I see you checking your phone.
Oh, you're fine.
But just because I know you, I know that life moves.
We had a busy morning, man. Busy morning. Got a lot of stuff moving this morning.
A lot of life moves 1,000 miles an hour for you, and I think you like it like that, right? It kind of feels like when you're around you like life in the fast lane.
I like action.
Yeah, you do. But is there things in this time away where life has kind of slowed down for you when you get back into it that'll carry over for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've spent a ton of time with my daughter, which has been a blast. Like, I pick her up from school any day I'm in town. I go pick her up. It's fun. I get to compete. I always want to be the first one there. So I get into the app and get her first. And she's like, Dad, you were first. I've been first both days this week. Hopefully I can keep my streak going today. I got to pick her up today, too. But then when I come home, I get like an hour or two, just me and her, go out and play or mess around. And I'm on the phone some, obviously, but I've really enjoyed that part of it because you'd be lucky if I got 1 or 2 hours a week to play with her before, and she was great and she was understanding and she's the best, but she's enjoyed it, I think, and we have a good time. So that part's been a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. Do you feel recharged though? I got to imagine the competitive juice on you at this point is fucking just boiling.
We're ready to go.
Hell yeah.
We'll be ready to roll.
Hell yeah.
We'll be ready,
boys.
No
general
about that.
Oof. I got chills thinking about it. Coach, great to talk to you. Great to see you. We will talk next week. Have a great weekend.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. See you. There he is, Will Wade from the Will Wade Show. FM Digital presenting that every week. We'll be back, more of it, talking Selection Sunday. We'll have the Field of 64 set and a ton of reaction for you. Make sure you're following us all on social media.